Alright, welcome back to another one of these where I ramble about something. And today's something is a game I completed for the first time recently. Final Fantasy IX. No, it's Half-Life. I'm sorry. It's Half-Life. I beat Half-Life for the first time. So to go over my history with the game, I've always kind of been around Half-Life. Now, Half-Life is a series, what was my introduction to that whole Valve as a company was with the Orange Box back on the Xbox 360. That was my introduction to them as a developer. And with the Orange Box, I guess for those not in the know, it was a compilation of Valve games put into one game. So what was it? It was Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Portal, and Team Fortress 2. So those were the 5 games that you get for I probably got it for $20 at the time. And back then, all I played was Team Fortress 2. And eventually, whenever I got on the PC, I started playing more Team Fortress 2. But the Orange Box was my Team Fortress 2 disc back then. And every time you start up, the Orange Box, it's like, okay, here's the 5 games that's on the disc, and I think you had to go to the far right to select Team Fortress 2. So I always had to scroll past Half-Life 2 and all the episodes and Portal, I guess, but Half-Life 2, it was something I never really dealt with. Actually, I think I did complete it back in the day. I'm pretty sure I finished Half-Life 2, because I vaguely... Oh man, did I? I remember playing it. I probably finished it. But gosh, this was on the 360 a decade ago. I remember nothing about the game. Eventually down the line, I did get into PC gaming. And, if you're a PC gamer, you gotta have Steam. And if you have Steam, you probably see Half-Life 2 is $1.99. It's like that every sale, so of course I gotta get it. I got it really early on into me having a Steam account. So it's always been in my library, and I've played it admittedly a couple times. But I don't think I've ever beaten it since maybe I did back on the 360. And... if I'm playing a series, if I want to get into a series, I want to go from the beginning. I don't want to jump in midway through. Even with Final Fantasy, that's a series that I had a period of, gosh, when was this? A couple years ago where I wanted to become a Final Fantasy fan, and I hadn't finished any of the games. So I started with Final Fantasy 1. Even though it's not really a series, it's the games aren't connected in terms of plot, but I wanted to see the progression of how it went through technology and just the developers, just to see how they grew. I want to do that because I like having the perspective of, I think I've talked about this in a previous video, I like having the perspective of being a fan of something, and then you get to see how the sequel or whatever develops. And you're like, oh, I can see how they changed on this and made it better, or, well, it's a callback to, a little Easter egg to something in a previous game. Because if you do that, if I were to, I guess to bring it back to Half-Life, if I were to play Half-Life 2, and then play Half-Life 1, that's going against the way things were intended to be played. If I get used to Half-Life 2 and I play that a couple times, and I go back to Half-Life 1, I'm like, oh, this is clunky. I like having the perspective of, this is Half-Life 1, and then I play Half-Life 2, and I'm like, oh wow, they added so much, and the gameplay variety is so different. I like that. So, I've wanted to play Half-Life 2 over the years, but I've kind of had this in my mind that I gotta play Half-Life 1 first. And I don't mind older games. I've played Quake and Doom in my time. I'm trying to think of other older FPSs I've played. Can't think of any. But, I'm not averse to playing older games, but Half-Life 1 just didn't really gel with me. I've tried playing it a few times. I think my Steam hours before I got into finally finished it recently was 2 hours. So over the years, I'd put 2 hours into trying to play Half-Life 1. Maybe 3 hours, I don't know. But, I've started and restarted a couple times. I get through the introduction sequence. I get some chapters in. I think it was Office Complex. That's a chapter I always remember doing. Yeah, for whatever reason, I always drop off. And I even tried Black Mesa. That's a remake of Half-Life 1 in the newer Source engine. And I guess kind of like I talked about with Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, when it comes to a remake, I like having the experience of playing the original game. And then I get to try out the remake and see all this crazy new stuff they added and just have the perspective of what it was like before the remake. I played Final Fantasy VII before Final Fantasy VII Remake came out. That was my... Remake coming out was my kick in the butt to finally give Final Fantasy VII a try. And in retrospect, that was a great thing because Remake's kind of its own thing, and it kind of does twists on the original game, so it's good to have that perspective. And I know Black Mesa kind of does a similar type of thing. Maybe it's not a one-to-one remake. It does a lot of changes. And I want to have the perspective of the original game. So that's my perspective on Half-Life. Tried Half-Life 2 a couple times over the years, tried Half-Life 1, didn't really get into either. But I guess what kind of got me interested now, as opposed to any of the years before, I guess this is the first game I've played for like a video purpose. The videos that have done well for my channel are all Source related, related to the Source engine, Team Fortress 2, Garry's Mod, those games, a lot of my subscribers like those games. So I knew I wanted to do Half-Life at some point. And, whatever, I just felt it was ready to finally make a video on it. And I was like, well, I'll get to make a video on it, and I'll get to finally play this game I've been meaning to play for so long. So I finally played it, I beat it. I think I had like 9 hours or something in game. I went to howlongtobeat.com to see how long it takes for like the average person. I think it said like 13 hours or something. I only had like 8 hours, 9 hours. And I played some amount of it before. So my actual playthrough must have been like 6, 7 hours compared to the 13. How does that happen? I don't know. I explored a lot. I didn't rush through it, but whatever. Anyway, played the game, beat it. What did I like about it? Something I definitely remember from Half-Life 2, and I was surprised to see this early on in Half-Life 1, is that it's very cinematic. And it's cinematic in a way not a lot of games are these days. Specifically in that there's no cutscenes. I feel like that's important because it really grounds you in the world as the character. The game doesn't pull back to show like a third-person view of you talking to a scientist and you get to like see Gordon Freeman. The game never... I'm trying to think back. No, it never pulls out and shows you Gordon Freeman. You're always first person. Like, you don't even know what Gordon looks like if you don't... I mean, he's on a title screen, but you never see him in-game. I feel like that's such a... It just grounds you. I'm trying to think of games that are similar. Like a first-person game, but it pulls out for cinematics. I guess it's good for games that... It's not necessarily a bad thing when games do that. It just kind of, like... It's a different perspective. So when I'm playing as Gordon Freeman, I feel like Gordon Freeman is me. But if it were to pull back in cutscenes and, Gordon Freeman's talking, I feel like I'm Gordon Freeman. Does that make sense? Because Gordon Freeman isn't necessarily a character in Half-Life. I mean, he is technically, he's an MIT graduate, he has a job, and, people refer to him, but he doesn't... How do I say this? He doesn't exercise any agency in the story. He's not a defined character that does things. I'm trying to... Gosh, this is a weird I didn't write down any bullet points for this, so it's a weird conversation to have on the fly. Like Joel in The Last of Us. Joel is a character that has defined goals. He has a personality. He has wants. He has needs. He has desires. He's a person. Gordon Freeman is just like an agent. I did make a video about this, about silent protagonists. That's an older video of mine. I should have rewatched that before talking about this, but... Yeah, Gordon Freeman, I guess in that type of silent protagonist in general, like Shell and Portal, it's kind of just a blank canvas for you to project yourself onto. And you don't see a lot of games like that these days. Most of the time, it's like a God of War where Kratos is like a character. Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself, but hopefully you get what I mean. And the fact that there's no cutscenes means you get to play a lot of, like, impressive moments yourself. The Resonance Cascade in the beginning, that is such a great opening for a game. And I think it only strikes so hard because you're allowed to play through it yourself. So, for the first 10 minutes of the game, first 5-10 minutes, It's just you going to do your job. You know, you're riding the tram and then you're walking through the offices. You know, you stop to say hi to some people. You know, maybe you push the button on the microwave till the thing explodes. You go get your HEV suit. You go to your locker, get whatever's in there. You get to see everything as it goes day by day. And then once you get down to the chamber where there's the weird science experiment going on, you know, you're put right in the action. And stuff starts to go wrong. And you're seeing that firsthand. You're getting to walk around the room. You're like, oh, wow, that's insane. What's it look like from this angle? You're like, oh, let me out. I don't like it in here. Stuff's blowing up. It's going crazy. And you're getting teleported to weird worlds. That's so much more impactful than if it was just a cutscene. And that's what Half-Life is so good at. I guess that kind of leads into the story. The story is actually interesting. So I guess to go back to the Resonance Cascade where things go wrong at the beginning, you're at the center of the inciting event of the game. You know, things go wrong. And it's not necessarily because of anything you do, but, you know, you push that crystal into the portal or whatever, and shit starts blowing up and going crazy. You know, while other people's negligence might have caused that to happen, you know, you're the one who pushed it into that portal, and things started happening because of what you did. And, you know, it's immediately after that, you're trying to get out of there. You're trying to fight your way out of this complex. And as you're trying to fight your way out of this complex, you're targeted by some people who were seemingly supposed to be on your side, but now they're trying to kill you or silence you so none of this word gets out that this happened. And then you find yourself in the middle of a firefight between them and some aliens that came by. And you're just such a badass that you cause the military people to retreat. Now it's just you and the aliens. And I think what makes that so cool is that Gordon is just some guy. He's just some mild-mannered scientist. But over the course of the game, through your actions, through what you choose to do, you see his evolution into a hero. I guess that's kind of focused on more in the second game, where you run into NPCs and like, oh, you're Gordon Freeman, you're the guy from Black Mesa. And that was really cool, but that's some talk about Half-Life 2, maybe for another video. Back to the story, it really has momentum in parts. You know, think back to where, kind of early on towards the beginning, after the shit goes down, but before you make it outside to the surface, there's a lot of momentum to, like, fighting through the complex to reach the surface, and there's enemies, and I ain't stopping for nothing. And I guess to broaden out, there's so much that isn't explained. I feel like it's good to have more mystery than less. You know, when there's so many questions that aren't answered, it leaves you wanting more. Questions like, what is Zen? You know, I know it's this alien area, but it's not where the aliens you encounter live. Zen is like a transitional dimension or something between the human and whatever those aliens are dimension. It's like this transition area, and it's such a weird, like, concept. It's like this plane where they intersect. Like, what is that? What does the alien dimension look like? If this is like a transitional plane, what does their home look like? I don't know. And of course, the biggest question of them all, who is the G-Man? You know, he's this mysterious character you see early on. You know, you get a glimpse at him in the opening cutscenes. Or the opening tram ride, I guess. You can see him, like, walking around, and then you start to see him throughout the game. You know, you just see him walk into a portal or walk through a door. He's just this mysterious being. And at the end, he confronts you. And he's like, Gordon, you did great here. We've been watching you. We've been watching you, implying some group. And then he tries to recruit you. He's like, you did a great job. We want you. We want you to work with us. You're like, what? What does he do? What can I do? How can Gordon Freeman help this guy? And he works for like a group or something? Yeah, there's so much mystery. And I feel like as it exists in Half-Life 1, it perfectly sets up for sequels. And I definitely don't remember his role in Half-Life 2, and I haven't played any of the episodes or Alex yet. Very much looking forward to seeing what Valve does with him. Alright, well, I guess that's enough for the story for now. Let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. The gameplay is... I was trying to write down something about the gameplay. You know, I had a story section. I knew I wanted to talk about how cinematic the game is. And I just wrote gameplay. And I couldn't really think about a lot to talk about for the gameplay. I guess it wasn't like super outstanding, or maybe it was and I just don't have the right words to describe it. Yeah, I don't know, gameplay in Half-Life 1 is good. You know, there's a ton of variety of different weapons. What is there? There's the military weapons, you know, you got the the MP5 lookalike, the SPAS-12 lookalike, SMG shotgun. What else is there? There's like a crossbow, it shoots like bolts. It's like a good sniper. Then you got like an alien weapons section where there's like this bug thing that shoots out bugs that home in on enemies. Then you can throw a little alien bug and it'll hop around to go kill enemies. Then there's some weird science weapons that are like, there's this one that shoots out like one powerful continuous beam. And there's one that shoots out like little beams. You can hold down to shoot and it'll shoot like beam, 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 beam. Or there's the one that shoots one continuous beam. And then there's other military weapons like a rocket launcher, C4, trip mines. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? I feel like there's one more in that section I can't remember. Well, whatever. So there's a lot of different tools to use in different scenarios. And that's kind of how combat is in this game. There's enemies, and they all require different tactics to take down. Or maybe they don't require different tactics, but some tactics are better than others. So there's these big alien, oh gosh, how'd you even describe them? They have that weapon that has the bug that homes in on you. Those guys are hard to take out. They got a lot of health. They got a weapon that homes in on you, you know, so they can get you from around corners. I found the best way to take them out is with an SMG grenade launcher. You just shoot them once, I'm pretty sure they explode. That was what I found out, but I technically could have shot him with the bullets, or with the pistol even. Oh my god, I forgot about the revolver. I love a good powerful pistol in a game. And that revolver is good. And I guess to talk about the no cutscenes thing again. So outside of like combat scenarios, the no cutscenes thing I talked about earlier, that comes back into play with the gameplay here. The game really values you doing things as a player. You know, you escape the trash compactor yourself. You know, I guess there is a cutscene where some soldiers, you know, knock you out and they're dragging you along the ground. And rather than shoot you in the head, they decide to throw you into a trash compactor, Star Wars style. And you gotta escape that yourself. And it's so much more meaningful that you're able to escape it yourself. You know, you're like, okay, there's a bunch of boxes, I gotta jump on them in this way. And oh my gosh, I gotta hurry. Oh, I made it. That's good. That's fun. That gets the tension going. I very easily could have imagined that being a cutscene in another game. But it's not here. And it's good. So, I guess to talk about what I didn't like. There's not much I didn't like about Half-Life, but there are some things. Some of the sections in this game just suck. The first thing that came to mind was the tram ride. There's a whole section where there's like some rails and it's all in like some tunnels and you gotta make sure you're going down the right path. I hated it. It sucked. You're seeing the same environment for like an hour. I was looking through the footage for this. I think I spent like an hour in tunnels on this tram. Oh my god, I hated it. I hated it. There's like a whole chapter of the game. What's it called? On Rails or something? Yeah, there's like a whole section of the game dedicated to it, and I hated it. If I wasn't doing this for a video, I would have dropped off at that point. There's another section towards the end where you have to bomb this big alien guy that's walking around. Your traditional weapons can't damage this guy, so you have to drop like mortars and something on him. And it was so frustrating to do this, because the guy doesn't stand in one place. He walks around to try to reach you. But to hit him, you have to stand at this console and say, okay, of this small square that represents the environment around me, I'm going to launch a mortar here. And then 5 seconds later or whatever, they drop on that spot. But in that 5 seconds, that guy's still walking around. So you got to think like, okay, like he's here right now, so I'll aim the mortars here, and then I'll press the button. But then I got to get out of the way of the mortars, so as I'm getting out of the way, he'll follow me. But then I got to think about that, Oh my gosh. It was so frustrating. I only got it. I only beat that section because he was just standing in one place. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was a glitch. I don't know if it was something I did, but he was just standing in one spot. So I had an unlimited amount of time to say, okay, he's here. I shoot the mortars. Oh, I didn't quite hit. Let me move it back. Let me shoot. Okay, overshot it. Let me move it back up a little bit. Okay, there it is. I killed him. The previous, 15 minutes was me running around in circles trying to predict where he was going to be. It was a frustrating mechanical thing. And this, I don't even know if I can call this a negative of the game, but some puzzle and boss solutions weren't too obvious at some points. Like, what was an example of this? I guess the final boss. There's no objective markers telling you where to shoot. So you gotta think about, like, okay, what can I do? You just gotta try out a bunch of shit. You gotta try, like, okay, does shooting him work? Well, he's not... I'm shooting him with bullets, but I can't tell if he's doing anything. Is this hurting him? I don't know. So, okay, I shoot him with a rocket launcher. Does that do anything? No, I don't think so. But then he keeps shooting little alien beams at you, and you're like, okay, I gotta dodge all the attacks. But then I get hit with an attack and it teleports me? Okay, I guess it is kind of telegraphed a bit in that beam looks like the teleporter that you see earlier on. So I guess it is telegraphed that, this isn't a normal attack. This is a teleporting beam. So fair enough, I guess I missed that. But then you're teleported to another area, and then you get some ammo or whatever. You kill some bad guys, and you're put back in the main boss room. And I was just shooting him for a long time, and I was like, nothing's happening. So I just jumped on... There was like some weird circles, so I jumped on those, and those are the platforms that like launch you up in the air. So I'm like, oh, I gotta go up here and shoot him in the head. And I do that. I shoot him in his exposed brain, and he dies. Yeah, I don't... There were a couple moments like that where I'm like, am I doing this right? Like with the bombing the alien dude with the mortar, I'm like, is there something I'm missing? Like, I figured out the final boss thing, but was there something I was missing with that? Why did that guy stop in the mortar section? I don't know. There's some parts of the game that are frustrating like that. But, that's the sacrifice it takes to make a game where you're fully grounded and there's no quest objectives. There's no guy in your ear telling you, shoot him in the head, or get him into this spot and then go this way. It's challenging in that way. So would I recommend playing Half-Life 1 in the current year? Obviously, yes. There are some bits that are a little bit complicated. Did I feel the need to use a walkthrough? I felt like there were some points where I felt like I should. I think at one point I pulled up a YouTube video, but I don't remember for what. But yeah, it's definitely worth trying out. I'm very excited to check out the later Half-Life games with the context of Half-Life 1 in my head. Even as a game from, 1998 or something? 97? I don't know. Late 90s? Still played pretty well. Yeah, had a great time. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is interested. As always, leave a comment suggesting a topic for a future video, and see you next time.